Hey there, here's a quick word from HubSpot. Your sales software shouldn't be a bummer. When you step inside your CRM, you should feel equipped to do your best work. And that's the magic of HubSpot Sales Hub. The new Sales Hub is designed to help you win with an intuitive prospecting workspace and AI-powered tools that reduce your workload. Closing deals is no big deal at all. Get AI-powered tools like ChatSpot that are tailor-made to help you automate steps across the sales pipeline so teams can take back their time and spend it on more impactful tasks. Close more deals and get on track for your best Q1 yet. Learn about HubSpot Sales Hub at hubspot.com/sales. All right, Happy New Year, everybody. It's Tuesday, January 2nd. I'm Jon Weigell here with Martina Bretous, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. We're kicking off the new year with an ever-changing topic, AI. Yes, we're back at it again with the AI. We'll be back with the news tomorrow, but today we're tackling what 2024 has in store for the fast-expanding tech phenomenon and how you may be affected at work or at home. So let's get into it. Welcome back, Martina. Welcome. Great to have you back.
Thank you, Jon. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yes, of course. Excited to chat all things AI with you. You're kind of our resident AI expert here, so excited to dig into everything. First thing, we're here to talk about 2024 mainly, but we would be remiss if we didn't round up 2023 a little bit. So in the past year, what was your favorite new use of AI that you saw in 2023? Because there's been a lot of more public adoption in 2023, a lot more people using AI regularly. Has there been anything you've seen that you have a favorite use of or has maybe changed some lives in your opinion this past year?
So I don't know if it's changing lives and people might think this is silly, but for me, seeing my parents use ChatGPT has just never gotten old because I think technology has been this thing that kind of separates generations and we're kind of seeing this chatbot being leveraged by anyone and everyone. And so I don't know, it's pretty cool to me and it's just remained with everything else that's come out, the AI pins, just everything. That has been the one thing that I think I keep coming back to.
That's really funny that you bring that up. I actually had the same experience this past year with I found my father and he was using ChatGPT and he was like, hey, I actually ran a bunch of things on ChatGPT to give us more like board game scenarios or like for Dungeons and Dragons. And he was telling me like, yeah, I keep like looking at it and like keep typing in stuff for scenarios for that. It's pretty useful. Like,
I know.
Wow.
It's like, who would have thought that we would be having conversations with our parents about AI and it wouldn't be us trying to explain just this concept that's so foreign. Now we're just you use ChatGPT. What'd you use it for? It's so accessible to everyone. I think that's what I love.
Right. It's not like a what's that anymore. It's more like what are you doing with it? Exactly. That's really cool. I'm glad you brought that up. Also, something this past year that was pretty crazy, the Sam Altman OpenAI stuff at near the end of the year, November, early December. Yeah, it got crazy a little bit there.
That was a doozy.
Yeah. People came in and out the door a lot of times, a big revolving door in the front of the OpenAI office. But do you think that they're kind of back on track for 2024? Where do you kind of see them shaking out in this coming year?
I'd say so. So part of Sam Altman, the CEO and co-founder, coming back was restructuring the board, which I think leaves him in an even better position that he was in 2023. So before, the board was largely made up of AI researchers who just tend to be a little bit more conservative with their approach. And now he has the board is full of allies. And so I think this is just setting him and the company up to be in a position to dominate 2024, just like they did in 2023.
Yeah, I heard a lot about how AI researchers or people on the board previously were very conservative in terms of AI versus him or Sam Altman trying to get more of an aggressive point across with AI. Do you have an opinion on that, or do you know anything about that conflict, I guess, between being conservative towards how we develop AI and being aggressive?
Yeah, I think it's tricky. I think every company kind of wants to find the balance. They want to push the boundaries. They want to be the first to do it and get everybody thinking like they're an innovator in the sector. But then obviously you think about how dangerous, AI can be in certain sectors. So I completely understand how researchers are a little bit more cautious. They want to make sure that before products are available for commercial use, that we're making sure that it's safe and that people aren't going to take advantage of it. but you also want to push the boundaries and experiment. So it's kind of a hard conversation to have. And I think that's what the board was facing before. We had written about how Sam Altman and one of his former board members, Helen Toner, who was on the board previously, had written a paper talking about AI safety. And apparently that created a conflict with Sam Altman and the rest of his board members. And now she's not there anymore. And so I think that kind of brings up, I think that brings up a conversation and a point to where he kind of falls in this conversation. And, ideally there's going to be a balance struck. But now it's kind of the Wild West. There's not really any regulation, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, but there's not any firm stance that the government or globally that we're taking on AI. So it kind of leaves it up to the companies to decide what's going to be our approach here. And so it makes things a little bit tricky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure it does. That kind of company versus government kind of dynamic that we're definitely going to dive into in a minute. But something else that I wanted to talk about, kind of going back to what we said about 2023, your favorite part of AI in 2023, is there anything that you're excited to see improved upon in 2024? Any kind of facet of AI that you think will get a lot better this year?
Well, I'm really hoping that AI is just going to improve accessibility for folks. Folks who are deaf, hard of hearing, have low or no vision, or just have any disability that's impacting their life. I think there's such a gap in access and there's so much work to be done that I'm hoping AI is going to bridge that gap and make it a little bit easier for everyone. So that's what I'm hoping. Now, on a personal note, I'm hoping that smart home gadgets and digital assistants like Siri and Alexa are just going to do better. I'm so tired of Siri being mediocre after seeing what ChatGPT can do. And maybe this is a hot take, but I'm just ready for digital assistants to get an upgrade.
I hope it does. And, it makes sense that they would, considering that, Google, for example, like Google Home.
Right.
I'm sure like Google's working on Google Bard right now. So that is kind of a great facet of something that could be sent into people's homes using Google Home. By the way, through this conversation, we've woken up everybody's house. So sorry, everybody out there.
I know. Alexa and Siri are like, wait, did you call me? No, we didn't.
Hello? No, we did not. No, you're not needed right now.
I know. And when you are needed, you don't answer. So let's get it together, please.
It's very annoying. Yeah. I've recently become an Alexa adopter, and I honestly would rather not have it. I'd rather just get up and put the light switch on myself.
Every single time I use Siri, I'm reminded why I don't use Siri. Because there hasn't been a single time where I've picked up my phone and I said, hey, Siri, what time does the store close? Or what's this? What's that? And Siri just offers no insight, no help. And so
Never.
I'm hoping this is going to change this year.
I hope so too. Now, back to what we were touching on before about government restrictions. I mean, really sticky subject when it comes to AI. Is there any movement to restrict AI activity right now that you're looking at? Or is it going to be this kind of wait and see game that we've been playing all 2023, you think, for this year?
So in the US, things are really messy when it comes to AI regulation. There's no federal law, like I mentioned before, that regulates AI. So we saw in October that President Biden had released this executive order where he basically just directed federal agencies to implement these initiatives that's going to make AI safe and responsible. Like, for example, the Secretary of Labor was tasked with submitting a report that's going to evaluate the impact of AI on the labor market. So things like how many workers are being displaced by the adoption of AI and, how AI is being used to evaluate employees' performance. But beyond that executive order, each state is kind of doing its own thing. Last year, we spoke to a lawyer who said that right now there's kind of a patchwork of existing laws that could apply to some of the risk of using AI, like discrimination, privacy laws, things like that, but nothing that relates to the AI technology itself. Right now, we have 3 states that have some of the biggest bills on AI. So that's Maryland, California, and Massachusetts. But again, they only have them for very specific use cases. So at this point, long-winded way to say that we're still kind of in this wait and see game with restrictions on AI, but things are moving forward.
That's interesting. So yeah, kind of more of the same, essentially. Some specifics coming down from certain states, as I'm sure we'll see more of this year. And you did mention the labor market a minute ago, and I really want to kind of zero in on that. How do you think this will impact jobs? How do you think AI will impact jobs this year. And that's kind of in terms of many things, like people potentially losing jobs, people gaining jobs, or it could even mean people acquiring new skills to operate AI and kind of maybe that being taught in schools even. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think we saw last year that AI was already impacting jobs. So late last year, Salesforce released a report that found that over 50% of employees globally are using unapproved AI tools. So they're saying it's making them more productive and more engaged at work. But the problem is companies aren't providing enough structure and training for how to use AI safely and ethically. So employees are just taking it into their own hands. But I think this year in 2024, we're going to see employers just take a more active approach on how to use AI. This year has been a lot of experimentation. Well, last year was a lot of experimentation. And this year, we're going to see employers just taking a more active approach and really setting guidelines for how they want their employees using it. Now, in terms of using AI to upskill, I definitely think that now some of the fear and confusion around AI has dissipated a little bit. I think we're going to see more employees using it. And that could be using AI to give them some time back to focus on more important tasks. But if you're in the tech world, I could definitely see folks using the sudden boom in AI to launch their career forward. So maybe they're taking courses or certificates on machine learning and model development, things like that are really going to set them apart and help them make a step up in their career.
Yeah, that totally makes sense that something like that would explode this year and kind of start ramping up. Is just the adoption of AI as that's grown. People in the job market are going to start looking for that on resumes even. And kind of considering that we just did touch on public acceptance and the adoption of AI, do you also see that opening up a bit more this year? We saw even our parents started using ChatGPT in 2023. So do you think that bodes well? And do you think there's going to be even more integration into our society from AI?
Definitely. I think 2023 was the year of just trying to figure out what AI meant for us. I was finding myself having conversations at every gathering with my family and my friends about what does AI mean for us? Talking about our fears. Are we going to lose our jobs? Is it going to cause more harm than good? What about data privacy? Just having all of these open conversations. And I imagine it was the same for you and a lot of people who are listening to this.
Totally.
And, last summer, the Pew Research Center found that half of Americans were more concerned than excited about the use of AI in daily life. But as you and I talked about with our parents, I think slowly but surely adoption has gone up now that we see that AI can be this accessible thing that we can use in our daily life. And it's not this scary thing that feels so far away and disconnected from us. So I definitely see folks adopting AI more this year.
Yeah, and it's definitely, it has evolved quite a bit throughout the last year because at first, there was kind of a tentativeness, as you mentioned, to kind of adopting it and a bit of a fear of, what's this going to do to me or what's this going to do to our lives as we know them. But there have also been some very, let's say, surface level adoptions as well. Like, I could just search, make me a photo about an ostrich eating a croissant in France, and I could just get that now. And I've been seeing that everywhere now, all over TikTok, all over like YouTube Shorts, of people just making these wild images, wild songs, doing the voice AI converting to like make a Weeknd song, a Drake song, or whatever you have. What is your take on what this is going to do to art in the future? Because it does seem like it's already sort of started to move some things in certain directions. Even this past year, I believe Grimes came out and said that if anybody makes an AI song, she will happily license it as her music and give them some sort of royalties from it. So just in terms of music and art and, even pictures, what do you think is to come?
Honestly, I don't think everybody feels like Grime does. I don't think every artist feels that way.
I don't think so
either.
I
think most of them feel the opposite way. I think when you're talking about AI and art specifically, the biggest thing is copyright infringement. So a lot of artists are feeling like their work is being stolen and repurposed without their permission. So OpenAI right now is facing multiple lawsuits for this exact reason. And what's funny is they even pledged to help other companies using ChatGPT to defend themselves against similar lawsuits. So they're kind of jumping in and saying, we feel like we can help, we can beat this, and we're going to help you do it too. So I think in 2024, we're going to see some of those lawsuits play out. And I think it's really going to set a precedent for how we approach AI in the art space. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing. There's so much potential for art, like you mentioned, in AI. We can do whatever we want. We can create these things out of our mind. But there is also a lot of potential for theft. So it's like, what guidelines and what frameworks are we creating around these things to make sure that it's being used, but in a way that doesn't exploit artists?
Yeah.
So I think that's a conversation that we're still going to be having this year.
For sure. I think a general theme of everything we've talked about is how fast it's moving, how fast it moved from, 2022 when people first kind of started dipping their toes in to last year when it became more of a part of our daily life and in the news cycle to then this year. Do you have any bold predictions for the end of 2024 to see where we'll get in about 11 months or so?
So there's this company called Humane that launched this AI pin, right? And a lot of us had a lot of thoughts on it. I think some people were in awe, some people were confused. And for people who don't know, this AI pin is something you can put on your body and you can use hand gestures to operate it. So I think that by the end of this year, we're going to see a lot more folks wearing or walking around with wearable AI products. And we're going to be walking around just like we used to, remember, with the Bluetooth headsets, and people would be in grocery stores, walking up and down the aisle, talking really loudly, and everybody being like, oh my God, this is so obnoxious. I could see at the end of the year, just AI products just becoming more integrated and us just using them and kind of changing our behavior, using our hands more to look at what's on our phone versus like an Apple Watch. So my bold prediction is AI wearable products.
Wow, AI wearable products. That's fascinating. There have been a lot of wearable products that have tried and failed, notably your Google glasses, your Snapchat glasses. Yep. Apple Watch seems to be, or watches in general, seem to be the only one
that sticks.
Kind of still kicking. Yeah, and they're getting a lawsuit for that actually right now. But otherwise, that's a very, very interesting prediction to see if people will actually, well, first of all, if people will adopt AI in such a way that they allow it to be in their everyday life, and then also decide to wear an AI product. That is fascinating. And I wonder what company or person will be the first to develop something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on today, Martina. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. And we are going to hang out with you a lot more this year to get a lot more AI updates. And I hope that sounds good to you.
Yes, that sounds great. I'm happy to come back.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jon.
That is going to do it for us today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We are a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Ezra Trupiano, and our executive producer is Darren Clarke. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter, and if you're not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email. Happy New Year, and we will see you tomorrow. All right, everybody. I've been listening to this podcast lately. It's fantastic. It's called DTC Pod, hosted by Ramon Barrios and Blaine Bolas. It's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, which is the audio destination for business professionals. DTC Pod is a podcast about all things direct to consumer, as it says in the title. Ramon and Blaine cover everything from starting, growing, and optimizing e-commerce stores and DTC or D2C brands. They have a lot of great conversations with founders, marketers, platforms, creators, and marketing and growth agencies to cover all these topics like brand building, social media, influencer marketing, website conversion, paid media, Facebook ads, consumer trends, email marketing, and much, much more, if you could even believe it. If you're interested in stories behind your favorite consumer brands, this podcast is tailor-made for you. Just the other day, I was listening to an episode and their guest was Mikey Taylor. Mikey started as a professional skateboarder and flipped his life into becoming a huge entrepreneur dealing in real estate, owning his own brewing company, and also owning a skateboard company called Sovereign Skateboards. This guy really flipped his life into something insane, and it's so cool to listen to how he did it every single step of the way. Definitely go check that episode out. It's really, really inspiring. And you can listen to DTC Pod wherever you get your podcasts.